Good day. Welcome. This is your Daily Med with Lady V. Grace and peace be multiplied. We have been listening and talking about the wise man Solomon as he implores us to remember our Creator while we are in the days of our youth. He warns us that even though we might want to follow our hearts and to see the good things with our eyes, the things that we think that are so good, but he's also saying to us, remember, there is an eternal God, there is eternity, and there must be accountability. As youths, or when we are youths, we tend to think all is well. The young must live and the old must die. But we have seen it otherwise, where in youthful days, many are called or ushered from time to eternity. So in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, we looked at verse 1 yesterday, and today we look at verse 2 through verse 5. But as we look back at verse 1, it says, remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come, and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun and the light, the moon and the stars are not darkened, and the clouds do not return after the rain, and the day when the keeper of the house tremble, and the strong men bow down, when the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look through the windows grow dim, when the doors are shut in the streets, and the sound of grinding is low, when one rises up at the sound of a bird, and the daughters of music are brought low. Also, they are afraid of heights and of terrors in the way. When the almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper is a burden, and desire fails. For man goes to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the street. So, yes, the wise man is saying, we might be, or some people might be in their youth today and feel all is well. I have time. But let us remember, we do not know for sure what is our allotted time. In the parable with the rich young man, we see where he says, I have time enough. I will tear down my barn. I will build a bigger barn to store all my possessions. And I will say to my soul, eat, drink, be merry, because you have things stored up to last you for a long time. But the parable goes on to say, thou fool, this night your soul is required of you, because he did all these things, but not with eternity in mind, not with accountability to God in mind for the time he was allotted on earth, not doing things knowing that there is eternity. He thought he had a long time, when in truth and in fact, his soul was required of him that night. So when we look at youthfulness as against old age, we begin to wonder, do we really have so much time? because the same people like myself who were in youthful days a few years back have now become seniors, have now become old people. I have a daughter who used to say to my husband, Daddy, why such and such? Why are you guys so old? And her father would say, Oh, you're growing. One day you will get there. The very same age at which she thought we were old, she's at the same age today. So, how fast can we really get to being old? So, old age, as the Bible tells us, is a time when the lights grow dim. And this light will grow dim both physically and emotionally. When the days become dreary, when the nights seem long, and many times gloom and oppression or depression will settle in. Even in earlier years, there was a certain amount of rain, meaning that is trouble and discouragement. But then the sun would emerge and the spirit would quietly bounce back. Now it seemed that the sunny days for the older person are gone. And after each spell of rain or trouble, the clouds appears with the promise of what? More. Youth is the time, as the wise man says, to remember the Creator. Because then the sun, the moon, and the stars are not darkened, and the clouds do not return after the rain. But when you look at the old person, the body of an old man or the body of an old woman presents to us, as Solomon puts it, and he gives it to us in the figure or the form of a house. He says, the keeper of the house are our arms and our hands. Once strong and active, notice a person who is old, their hands now begin to get feeble. There are wrinkles. Sometimes those hands begin to shake. A common disease is Parkinson. The person will just shake and shake and shake. You might have known them in their youth when they were muscular and active and skillful. But we find that as the body deteriorates, these things begin to happen. Diseases, sicknesses of different kinds. The wise man says the strong man are our legs and our thighs. No longer are they able to run and to do those physical activities. Now they are shaking. Now they are buckling under the weight of the body. He tells us about the grinders, which are the teeth. He says, listen, some fall out, some decay. The grinders become few. No longer is the older person able to do what? Chew their food properly. How many have to depend upon the dentist, the dentures that we will get, or even implants that an older person might say, I have no teeth to eat, I cannot chew. Therefore, dental work has to take place. Sometimes the dentist has to do a whole mouth total restoration so that one is able to eat. Those that look out the window, he says, will grow dim, in referring to the eyes, and the sight begin to fail. Somebody will say, at 40 years old, I begin to wear glasses. I begin to lose a part of my sight. Steadily, one might say, I need bifocals. Then he might say, I need trifocals. Some wear progressive, like myself. And so now we can't read small prints anymore. We can't thread a needle as we used to anymore. We have to use magnifying glass. We have to use large prints. Why? because the eyes are growing dim. In verse 4, he tells us about the doors on the street that are shut. And this is referring, of course, to our ears. Everything you have to say, did you hear me? Or you have to repeat it over and over again. It is a fact, it is something that we live with. Loud noises are sometimes as loud as they be. An older person say, but I don't hear it. Like the grinding of the mill with big distinct noise, yet it is so low that an older person might not hear. When a person becomes old, they suffer from insomnia. They rise up bright and early in the morning. But guess what? It is because of the simplest of sound. The Bible says even that of a bird chirping, or those who still live in the countries where the roosters crow as they begin to make noise. Guess what? The older person will just jump up from sleep. He says all the daughters of music are brought low. You'll have some people, they were singers, they were vocalists, but when they become whole, the voice cannot do that anymore. It begins to crackle, it begins to become unsteady. And you wonder, but this person was a soloist, and how such one used to sing. But they just can't do that which they used to do when they were youths. And all kinds of things begin to happen. Now they are afraid of noise. They're afraid of climbing on a ladder. They were going to fall. They're afraid of heights. They're afraid sometimes to ride in planes, anything that would elevate them. And the Bible tells you about terror in the way. They have lost self-confidence. They're afraid sometimes to go out alone. They're afraid sometimes to be alone, especially at night. And we would say they have become like little children. Once a man, twice a child, we'll say. The Bible tells us about the blossoming of the almond tree. It is generally taken to picture, the gray hair. And we will see that, and not even sometimes that they are gray, but they may fall out. And we find that happening to a older person. The grasshopper may be interpreted in that the grasshopper, he says, become a burden. The lightest of weight, an old person is not able to carry. Then he tells us finally that desires will fail. The natural appetite diminishes. They don't know, what do you want to eat? I don't know. Nothing seems to have any flavor anymore, because he says desires fail. The basic drive that one will have when they're young, sexual vigor, all these things are gone. So this generative process takes place because the Bible says man is going to his long lasting home. And sometimes death comes, the grief comes. Here is the funeral procession, and one is being laid to rest. And we go and we celebrate the life of someone. And we know that old age sets in, death comes, and all of these things will happen over the years. So Solomon is saying, yes, this same person that you see these things happening to today were young, were in their youths, but at last, age, old age, will take a hold. So all he's saying, don't forget that these days are coming if we live long enough. So remember the Creator in the days while it is the youthful days. God bless you. Thank you again for watching. Please subscribe. It is free. Like, share, also comment, and please continue to visit my YouTube channel, Daily Med with Lady.